guys, what is going on? Thank you so much for tuning in. I am Deborah with Purusha Holistic Wellness, and this is our YouTube channel, my YouTube channel, Purusha Intuitive. So deals with everything health, well-being. I am a huge believer that health and wellness is a combination, mind, body, soul, spirit. You know, we got to make sure that all these aspects of ourselves are in check in order to be, you know, the best version of ourselves. And why is that important? Health and well-being. You know, we know it's good to live a healthy life. We know the topical things about, you know, gives us more energy, less stress, less disease, etc. But all that really is about is this foundation of living a happy life, you know, a happy and fulfilled life. Without our mental health, emotional health, physical health, spiritual health, it's really difficult to fully integrate and really enjoy the life that we're living. So that's why I'm incredibly passionate about health and well-being, because I do believe that, yeah, life is messy, the world is messy, people are messy, but there's always ways to navigate around that, you know. We are the protectors of our energy, of our well-being, and it's so important for us to empower ourselves in the process in order to get the results that we want, right? Kind of that concept of the law of attraction, like attracts like. If we're doing the things that ground us, that make us happy, that make us feel well, then we are living a healthful and therefore abundant life, right? So with this in mind, you know, I've been talking a lot about trauma lately on my Instagram page and the YouTube channel here and there. I think some of the shorts. And, you know, just this concept has come across my path lately, clients, etc. Like, well, where do we start, right? We all know it's good to do certain things, you know, diet, exercise, routine, etc. That's pretty self-explanatory. We all know about that. But then it can be really overwhelming with all this information, where to begin, you know? Maharishi Ayurveda believes, Maharishi himself said that diet is anything that is taken from any field of perception through any sense of perception. That's eyes, ears, nose, mouth, well, no, I did do touch, sense, and mode of the mind, and any mode of intellect. So basically anything that we come into contact with, that our body receives, that we have to process and therefore transform and assimilate into our life, that's diet. So obviously that can be food or what we're listening to or what we're taking in. If you followed along with the videos, I've definitely touched on the value of our environment and what we're surrounding with and how that actually affects us. And Maharishi was really big on this. And why I'm bringing this up is because I think it's a huge insight into how to, you know, navigate the harder things in life. I was reflecting on that concept of, you know, when things get really challenging and we can't specifically get out of bed, what do? Where do we start? Right back to that client's question, where do we start? I think one of the most valuable answers to this question is how we do our daily routine. Now, obviously, the practical side of this is we actually have to do it, right? We have to take action and set intention and do what we set up to do, right? We can list out our goals, we can think of the best schedule, we can, you know, until we're blue in the face. But if we're not actually taking the action steps, then we're not going to get the results that we're seeking. And what Maharishi says around this, the ability to metabolize all sensory experiences into the experience of bliss, is the ability for prevention, for disease prevention. Think of that. Like, if we're able to process all of our experiences, everything we come into contact with, into something that is happy and fulfilling and, you know, helping us grow and evolve, then that actually is disease prevention. It's when we can't process through those things, right? When we kind of shove them down into different spaces of our being. And I know this is slightly off topic, but it's just kind of playing into that reality that, you know, when we are setting ourselves up for success, then and actually following through with how we've set things up, that's when we see the results, you know? But then it kind of goes back to that intrinsic factor of, well, what if we just can't get out of bed, right? What if we're just too down and out, or we're lacking motivation or inspiration? That's the hardest space to be in, you know? And depending on where we're at in that space, obviously is going to dictate what kind of help and well-being you might need. It's great to reach out to people that you know are going to support you, that are going to listen in a non-judgmental way. Maybe you need to reach out to a therapist, a psychiatrist, some mode of natural healing, Reiki, acupuncture, pranic energy healing. You know, there's a lot of different things that we can kind of gravitate towards. Someone we were talking about the other day, you can do simple things like knitting, you know, drawing, coloring. Those are all very therapeutic, and they actually kind of help, you know, release any blockages that we might be putting in front of us. So like I said, depending on where you're at, how heavy it feels for you will kind of dictate what you need to help pull you out. I think that once we kind of get to the space where we're feeling a little bit better, feeling more inspired, that's where routine becomes so instrumental. You know, when we set up habits and patterns like daily routine, going to bed at a certain time, getting up at a certain time, having a morning routine of self-care, getting ready, you know, taking a shower, washing our face, brushing our teeth, appreciating the day, being thankful, you know, reading something that's inspirational, having reflection time, having quiet time for yourself, whatever that might be for you, that actually helps us get over, you know, some of the challenges that we might face on a mental and emotional level, you know. And when we set up these practical routines, that keeps us going, you know. There's been many times where you can wake up just feeling like, down and out. But when we get ourselves out of bed and we start our morning routine, it actually helps enliven us, you know. Each step that we take, we've talked about this in previous videos, each step that we take towards our health, towards our well-being, only helps sharpen that consciousness in every individual cell in our body. Each cell is comprised of consciousness, and the beauty of Ayurveda, specifically Maharishi Ayurveda, is it helps enliven the consciousness of every cell in our being. And our being knows exactly what we need. So the more we give it that tender love, that self-care, the more that it will actually work for the betterment of us. And just to finish that quote on perception, Maharishi ends with, all 5 channels of perception, the 5 senses, must be so clear that all experiences through any of these 5 senses always inspire bliss. So just kind of corroborating the fact that if our system is blocked, if our channels are blocked, then we can't really feel that element of bliss, right? It makes it harder to kind of like dive into life and value what is right in front of us. So implementing a daily routine, Ayurveda is huge into daily routine. The doshas, the 3 different elements that make up all material thing, they govern certain times of day, certain seasons, certain climates, etc. And knowing how they affect our personal physiology, our mental, our emotional well-being. I live personally in a place where throughout the winter, it's like you're very lucky to get sun, right? And I remember someone asking me once, like, well, don't you get depressed living there in the winter? And I never thought about it. I'm like, and at the time I was living in Colorado where it was 365 days of sun. And then I came back home and I was like, oh my gosh, I see what they're talking about. It's bleak, it's gray, it's depressing. No wonder people are so pissed off all the time, And so when we kind of take those things into account, we know how to adjust accordingly, Maybe if you live in a place in the winter where you don't get a lot of sun, maybe you take some vitamin D supplements, or, you go to the tanning bed. Not that I'm promoting frying your skin or anything like that, but basically, and I'm sure that they have something nowadays where you can light therapy. They have all that kind of stuff, right? Modern technology. But, it's just that value of kind of putting ourselves, knowing, understanding, having the awareness, knowing where we're at, and then knowing what we need to do in order to make adjustments accordingly. And Ayurveda makes this so simple with the tactics that we use. We just basically have to do the opposite of what's being done. If we're not happy, if we're depressed, then we do got to find a way to get ourselves out of bed, right? We do have to find a way to make ourselves happy. That means surrounding ourselves with love, support, kind of nurturing our being with stuff that infuse joy into our awareness. That is what is going to lift our spirit out, right? Not sitting in bed all day, fixating on what's not going right. And we all need those days, right? We all need the days where we're in bed, where we can veg out, where we can just do nothing, probably more often than what we give ourselves, right? Those are just as valuable. But what I'm speaking about specifically is when we get into a rut, how do we bring ourselves out? So much of that is by the routine, specifically the self-care routine that we do on a daily basis. When we have a self-care routine in place, getting up at a certain time, taking care of our morning ritual, appreciating the day, like I said, doing some introspection, maybe reading some inspiration or something along those lines that gives us that fuel, that ignition to really dive into and passionately connect with our day. And then we have times of work, we have times of rest. And then we allow our body to slowly enter into the evening space with an evening routine and going to bed at a reasonable hour. Our body has circadian rhythms, i.e. the body clock, the 24-hour clock that we all function on. Every being in life functions on it, right? And modern day with technology, that light kind of messes with our eyes, with our circadian rhythms as to when it is daytime and when it is nighttime. It's great to shut technology down, an hour or so before bed. Don't take devices into the bedroom, that kind of stuff. All that is going to help us kind of adjust into the routines that our body actually naturally expresses. That's all Ayurveda has done, is highlight our natural biological rhythms. And when we fall in line with those things, that is when we find our happiness, our bliss, our fulfillment. And this has been something that they recognized 5,000-6,000 years ago, and probably even a little bit more readily because they didn't have all the technology and the distraction and blah, 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 right? Like we do nowadays. It's actually, I was reflecting on this, especially compared to when I was growing up, when it wasn't as rampant, right? We got an hour of TV a day or something like that. And there was no such thing as devices, and computers were still the old school, 3.5 floppy disks. And, you know, but the value of that was, you know, we were able to kind of integrate a little bit better into our biological clock, where now it's, you know, we have to actually work at it. We have to set intention, because obviously TV, technology, research, it can get very addictive, right? You know, getting on the YouTube or on the Facebook or the Instagram, you know, the Snapchat, Twitter, whatever. All that stuff can get so addictive, the endless scrolling, you know. And a lot of it is just being aware and then making intention, right? And part of what saves us from dipping into the places where it makes it too hard to show up for our own selves, for our own life, is really having that consistent, beautiful routine that honors our self-care, that honors our self-love. So I hope this video helped. Thanks so much for tuning in. I appreciate you always. If you enjoyed, definitely like, share, subscribe. Let's build and grow the community. I would love to hear your thoughts as well on what helps you get out of bed every day, what allows you to be motivated and inspired by life. It's a great way to throw around new ideas for everybody, some things that we might not think of. I would love to hear yours and share. Thank you so much for your time and energy. Lots of love and blessings. Have a great day.